Hey, what's up? It's Mac. I'm happy to be here. Thanks for tuning in to Happy to Be Here. We've got another episode done under our belts. I survived. Wasn't so much up in the air this week as to whether I would survive. I was pretty locked in on Paris. This in juxtaposition to last week, where I was very much not locked in on the correct destination. There actually was a pretty long period of time where I was like, I'm pretty confident that I know that it's Paris, but also, what if it's Amsterdam? And I can't remember why I thought it was Amsterdam. I was hearing a lot of Amsterdam rumors, and this was once again where I was like, okay, the people who got the real clue, I'm hearing from them that it's Amsterdam, but like in my gut, that doesn't make any sense. I also heard the can rumor, and I was like, that isn't, we're literally not in Cannes. That doesn't make any sense. They thought Cannes, and it does make sense why they thought Cannes in a sense. They thought Cannes because the correct clue in the maze involved this, right? So they were thinking Cannes Film Festival, but all of the clues, including the red herrings, or at least like each team in the, I'll get to the maze challenge in a second, but for some reason I decided to lock in on this first. Each team in the maze challenge got a charades-based clue for one of their clues, and they were all movie-based, so I was immediately like, that wasn't signaling to Can, like, that was just a charades, like, saying, like, hey, this is a movie or TV show. And then also the Can dance. And I thought that was really stupid, but now, after the fact, knowing that, like, Rome, EO, I'll bring up Rome, EO every single episode, count on it. Knowing that that was a legitimate clue, like can being a clue for Cannes, France, does make a little bit more sense. Saint Bernard was never a correct clue. But anyway, based purely on like driving directions and whatnot, I knew there was no chance we were in Cannes. Like that was way too far south. Like that was like, that'd be like a 7 or 8 hour drive south from Paris. I think. Let me fact check myself actually real quick. I've had this computer in front of me the whole time and I've never even fact checked myself. Paris to Can. Also, nobody pronounced it Can. No shade to them. I was super wrong. It's a 10-hour drive. Oh, but it's a 5-hour train. That must be what I was thinking. Anyway, heard some Can or Cans rumors. Knew it wasn't that. I thought that was kind of silly. Actually, I thought that's what people were like. I thought that was gonna be like this episode's burn. In a way, it was. In a way, it was this episode's burn. But I was also, I can't remember why I was thinking it was Amsterdam. You know what it was? I think I do know what it was. Okay. So they had a red, white, and blue flag, which is the same as the Netherlands. The team that got all the clues. We all figured out who got the correct clues pretty easily. Red, white, and blue flag was the Netherlands. The movie involved a windmill, and I've not heard of Moulin Rouge. That's a lie. I've heard of Moulin Rouge. I don't know anything about that movie. I know that rouge means red. Doesn't really tell me much. I didn't know that there was a windmill involved. That's on me. That's on me. But windmill, classic Amsterdam clue. And then the can, I didn't know where that dance was from. And I even remember saying that the can is too fun of a dance for the French to have created. And so I was like, well, maybe it could be the Netherlands. But everything else in my heart, croquet, that like chateau thing that we were at, all of that told me France. And so I was like, I'm going with my gut this time because I learned a lesson last episode. I'm going with my gut. I'm going Paris. So I stuck with Paris, survived it. Yeah. Anyway, episode 3. Let's get into it. The first challenge, the maze. I don't know how well the challenge was explained, but I want to explain it, and I also want to explain how it was filmed because I think that almost makes it a little bit more interesting. Full disclosure, I watched this episode with a room full of people and I had earplugs in because it was loud, and so like I missed half of the episode. Also, our local NBC station, KXAN, shout out, messed up for like 10 minutes during this, so it was like really choppy, like we lost chunks of seconds. So I don't really know what was included in this episode. Also, I've always watched the episode more than once before recording, but time did not permit for that to be the case this time, so I'm going off of basically watching 75% of the episode, and I'm just ripping it, so sorry if I'm saying things that are obvious. But anyway, this is how the maze challenge worked. So there were 3 teams, they were randomly decided, 2-2-2, and we were told that we had 3 check marks to hit as a team. and whoever got to the check mark first, or the checkpoint first, would receive the correct clue. The other two teams would receive red herrings. The trick was that we would not know who got to each checkpoint first. And then whoever completed the whole maze, got to all three checkpoints, and then got to the center of the maze first, would receive a big advantage, right? And so that was the way the maze worked. The way that it was filmed was a lot more interesting, I think, is we did one team at a time. I don't remember the order of it, but so it was like, let's just say me and Rick, because that's the team I was on. We would hear the starting buzzer, we would run around, try to find a checkpoint. Okay, we got it. They would timestamp it. Then we'd run around, two, run around, three, run around, center. They'd timestamp each one, and then the next team would come out. So we were all three filmed separately. And then at the end, all three teams came out, and we just kind of ran around aimlessly and muttered stuff under our breath. So that's a little bit of TV magic. Please don't sue me for that. I don't think that really gives anything away. I just think that's super interesting, because I thought it was like maybe a little bit confusing if the viewer was like really, really critically thinking about it, because like each of the checkpoint like little statue things had to prepare different things, right? Like for Ty and Shane, they had to prepare the lighthouse or the windmill clue, whereas for us they had to prepare the dragon clue, whereas for Rachel and Kim they had to prepare the Volkswagen. I don't remember what Biggie and Allie got. Oh, there were 4 teams. It doesn't matter. But yeah, so we were all 4 teams were filmed separately, and they had the checkpoints filmed separately. But when we actually got to the checkpoints, it was just a producer with a clipboard that turned around that said like checkpoint 1. Anyway, I thought it was really cool how it was filmed, and then to see it in real life, like have it all put together, because it was filmed in so many different bits and pieces. It was really cool. The maze was a crazy challenge. I haven't been in a maze as an adult that is difficult, and this was a test. This was a real test. And it was super frustrating because mazes are very frustrating, and we were running around so much, and I loved running around. Any challenge we got to do where I got to run around, I absolutely loved it. I also loved the croquet challenge because we got to take our shoes off, and I love taking my shoes off. I love getting the dogs in the grass. Anyway, the maze was a lot of fun, but it was so difficult, and Rick and I just like could not find things, and we kept getting so lost. It was so frustrating. But what was funny was all the teams except for Shane and Ty, like we each came back being like, oh, there was one we did really quick, like we're pretty sure we got it. Or something like that. And I almost wish that they had put the times on the screen, because Ty and Shane killed it. Ty and Shane probably finished the whole thing 20 minutes ahead of the second place team. Like there were some checkpoints they got to in like, I think under 2 minutes. I think there was one that Shane said that they got to in under 2 minutes. Whereas like Rick and I's best was like 15. And we had 30 minutes, I think, to find each checkpoint or something like that, maybe 20 minutes. And, like, there was one where it was, like, they weren't announcing the time, but it was, like, we know we were near the buzzer. Anyway, that was a crazy challenge. It was crazy to film. It was super exhausting. It's also frustrating because it's, like, oh, we're out and we're able to run around, but we can't see anything. Like, we can't get any clues from this. I remember at the front of there's one part of the maze where you could, like, kind of see the entrance to the maze. Like, you could kind of see the backside of some stuff. And I remember Rick and I just kept trying to look at that, and it was, like, not telling us anything. I think it was, like, a statue of a scorpion or something like that, and we were like, what on earth? Like, what does a scorpion point to? I kept thinking of, the spider that's in Bilbao's Spain? I thought that the scorpion looked a lot like that, but I was like, there's no chance that we're in Bilbao. But for a split second, I was like, maybe it's a nod to that. I don't know. It's crazy. I think I talked about this in a previous episode. It's crazy. Like, you can get your eyes and ears on, like, literally anything, and you're so locked in on that. And what I learned, I think, kind of from this episode, after everything that happened in episode 2, was just, like, take a step back, look at the big picture. It's not that difficult. They're really not trying to trick us in a way that I kind of wish they were trying to trick us, because I am an overthinker, but they're not doing that. I need to just take a step back, look at the big picture. What is this signal? And the maze, I didn't get anything from the maze. I don't know if France is known for their mazes. I think they're kind of known for their hedge work, but I would not have put that together. I didn't get anything from the maze other than a bunch of red herrings. And one thing that as a cast we were really, really bad about, but that I was at sometimes thankful for, was sharing clues. So like the second we got back to the bus, you can see us. We're all telling everybody what we got. So like everybody's on the same playing field. Like even the people who got the correct clues, which we knew at that point was Ty and Shane, because Ty and Shane were like, yeah, we got everything in under 5 minutes, and everybody else was like, oh, not me. We all knew what the correct clues were. Like we knew that they got windmill, red, white, and blue, and the can. I don't think there was any person on that bus that didn't know that they got that, along with what everybody else got as red herrings. So, like, that was helpful to me at that point because I could use that information, but also, like, we were so bad about that as a cast, and, like, producers were constantly like, you guys have to shut your mouths. And maybe we listened to them, maybe we didn't eventually. But, yeah. I actually had a little strategy going into that maze challenge that was not shown that would not have been a good strategy after all. So I guess I'm glad we didn't do it, though it did end up the same. But my strategy, I was telling Rick, is that we should try to get all red herrings. We should not try to win any of it, because that way we would know for sure where we weren't. Like if we got 3 different red herrings, if we intentionally got last place on each of the clues, then we would know 3 countries that we could automatically rule out, and that would help us potentially narrow down where we were, because Rick and I were both pretty good at tracking the sun, so we had a general idea of kind of like where in the continent we were. But if we could rule out, some places around it, or even some cities around it, because we didn't know if these were going to be city clues or country clues, then we would be able to rule it out. Whereas if we tried our best, but like maybe got 1 or 2 and then maybe didn't get the other one, like we wouldn't know what was correct and what was a red herring, and so none of that information would be helpful. But if we knew we got all 3 red herrings, then we would at least have information that we knew what we were supposed to do with it. However, 1, everybody ended up sharing information, so that would not have necessarily helped the 2 of us. 2, Shane and Ty won everything, and that was immediately made apparent, so we would have known we got all 3 red herrings anyway. Also, our red herrings were not helpful at all. There was no chance in my mind that we were in Croatia. The other, I think we got red and yellow flowers at our statue. I don't think the episode showed that, but each team got a movie clue, a flower clue, and a sound clue. So we had Game of Thrones, Dubrovnik / Croatia. We had red and yellow flag, which we decided probably meant Spain. And then our third one was a song that neither Rick and I knew, or at least Rick didn't tell me that he knew. It sounded kind of like German, like it kind of sounded like almost like a beery song. Like I don't know, like something you would like kind of dance to with clogs on. Maybe could have been Dutch or something like that, but I think we were more like Germany. We were thinking it was Germany or Austria or something like that. I don't think we were actually thinking Netherlands, because that would have thrown me for a loop when I was partially thinking Netherlands there for a second. But no part of me thought we were in Spain, Germany, or Croatia, so that did not help me at all. I can't remember what the other team's red herrings were, but they were things that was like, okay, that didn't actually really help me at all. And then the correct clues, somebody could make a somewhat decent argument that those could also point to Netherlands if you don't know Moulin Rouge, or if you don't think the French are capable of creating a song as fun as the can. I remember, it's funny, I remember being in the map room, because I was still like, gosh, could we be in the Netherlands? And I remember being like, and then I was just like, there's no way the French could come up with that. The French are not fun people. Turns out the French, maybe back in the day, were a little bit fun. But thankfully I went with my gut. Although, to be fair, had I not gone with my gut and had I gone with Amsterdam, I still would have been safe, because Cannes is further away from Paris than Amsterdam is. But nevertheless, I'm glad I got one right. Like, that felt really good to go with my gut, get it correct, not go based on any information. Like, nobody was really telling me Paris. I figured that out myself, went with it, got it, locked it in. And so that felt good. I want to be clear about one thing that I said in the episode related to the second challenge, the croquet challenge. I said that the place that we were at looked like the Palace of Versailles, and so that's telling me Versailles, which is 20 minutes outside of Paris. I didn't think we were at the Palace of Versailles. I knew we were not at the Palace of Versailles. I more meant like the architectural style looked Versailles-ish. I just want to be clear on that because I watched that and I was like, well, that just made me sound stupid. Nobody else in the room thought that, but I did not think we were at the Palace of Versailles. Just want to be clear about that. But it did tell me French, and it felt Parisian-ish. On that note, I want to talk about some of the clues that pointed to Paris, since the end of the episode didn't go over the Parisian clues like the previous two episodes did. I thought that was super weird. Like nothing was pointed out. But so let's go over them. Number 1, Moulin Rouge, Parisian cabaret. I knew Moulin Rouge was a Parisian cabaret. Didn't know the windmill. That's on me. So that was one clue. Then the flowers, red, white, and blue, French flag. Then lastly from the maze, we have the can-can dance, which also came from Moulin Rouge. I didn't really put that together. I was just thinking of the song, like the origin of the song, and I didn't know it was French. But now it makes sense. Like, I know that's a cabaret dancing song. Banned in like the 19th century or something like that. Let me look that up. When was can-can banned? 1830s, yeah, 19th century. It was banned because it was too scandalous because the girlies were lifting their legs. I actually, now that I think about that, because I did know the can-can was banned, I knew it was such a scandalous, dirty little dance, and I know that the French love to protest. If there's one thing I know about the French is I know that they love to protest. And I know that the women were still doing the can-can, I think, even though it was banned. And I should have put 2 and 2 together. Although that's kind of a big stretch, leap in logic wise. Well, not really. I should have got the can-can. That one's on me. But anyway, and that was, I don't think the can-can came from Moulin Rouge, but I know it is performed just kind of generally in like cabaret stuff. But whatever, can-can is a Parisian dance. I did not know that personally. Didn't even know it was French. Whatever. Those were 3 France/Paris clues in the maze. Then, cut to Janae and Peter arriving, which nobody else on the bus had any indication that there were 2 additional people involved in that challenge. All Shane and Ty told us was that they got an advantage to save someone and send someone. We had no idea the person who delivered it to them, or we had no idea that there was a person who delivered that clue to them. That did not come out at all, and I will talk about that later. But we had no idea about them, but Shane and Ty, had they been able to recognize both of them and put it together, they're both from dating shows, and so I guess that was the tie-in to the City of Love, or whatever. But yeah, Shane and Ty did not put that together, and then accordingly, neither did anybody else. But that was another Paris clue. Then, cut to the... What even building is that? It was like a palace type thing? Croquet, French generally. Also, it was the only Olympics that have ever held croquet was Paris. I did not know that, but that was a Paris clue. All of the food on the table was French, pretty undoubtedly. There were some specific things that were Parisian, and I cannot remember what those things were. Oh, we had a lot of macarons. I think those are Parisian. I know they're French. I've been to a couple places in France, and they were most popular in terms of street vendors in Paris. There were some other foods too, and I don't remember what. I think there were some baguettes. Crazy, they didn't give us any cigarettes. I would have known immediately. You give me a cigarette, I know I'm in Paris. That's on the producers. Jeffrey's Louboutins, those are Parisian. Rachel actually clocked that. Rachel, honestly, not shockingly, I'll tell you why it's shocking. You can probably figure out why it's shocking. Rachel put together a lot of the Paris clues and then didn't go with Paris, which sucks, and I'll talk about that later. But Rachel clocked the Louboutins. Another thing that was kind of surprising to me that Rachel didn't pick up on is, I don't remember if this was in the episode again, like a lot was cut out while I was watching, and also was really loud, such that I literally was watching with earplugs in, even though I was in the confines of my own home. Right before we went to sit at the table, Jeffrey said, "Let them eat cake," which is Marie Antoinette, which is the clue that Rachel got on the tarmac and talked about, like in a confessional. So she, like, of all the clues, she for sure knew that one. Or she didn't talk about it in the confessional. It doesn't matter. Rachel knew "Let them eat cake" was Marie Antoinette, which is Palace of Versailles, which is basically Paris. And so I was kind of surprised she didn't get that one, but that was another Paris clue. I think also the architecture, like the location where we were, was very uniquely French. But I think those were all the Paris clues. I'm sure I've missed some, but those were the big ones that were all kind of going together. Not a lot of Dutch things, so I'm not really sure why I even like kind of bothered getting hung up on that. That's on me. Again, glad I didn't go with it. I think it was mostly because I heard some rumors about that, and then I went and talked to Ty also, and I was like, "Are we in the Netherlands?" And I didn't know. Here's one thing I didn't know is that everybody on the show wanted me off. This isn't really talked about much, but like everybody on the bus, for the most part, was against me and trying to get me off, and I didn't realize that. And a lot of the reason is for stuff that's not included. A lot of it is because Allie and I really didn't like each other after episode 1, and also so they didn't trust me and thought I was a really bad person because of that. Also, I think they perceived me as a threat. Also, there were some like other kind of random things, like when we were all telling each other what we do for, or like we were all introducing each other at the beginning, I didn't realize everybody was saying their job, so I just didn't say mine. And then like later I mentioned I was a lawyer. I was never trying to keep that a secret, but people were like, oh, she was trying to keep the fact that she was a lawyer a secret, like we can't trust her, and also she's a lawyer, so we especially can't trust her. I never meant to keep that a secret. I didn't care. Also, I traveled Europe a lot. I've backpacked Europe several months, and like while interviewing for this show, I was backpacking Europe. So of anybody on the bus, at least in terms of people who were being honest about their travels, I had traveled Europe the most and the most recently. So I think they thought I was a big threat because of that. So everybody wanted me off the bus. Nobody was really sharing information with me, and I didn't realize that. So I thought I could trust Ty because I thought we had a girls' game, because we had a whole conversation, me, Ty, and Rachel, about this being a girls' game, and I wanted that from the start. I said that to Allie, or I think Allie was actually the one who brought it up, but I agreed, and like that was my goal going in, was like, I want a girls' game. I want the last 5 people on this bus to be girls, because I love girls, and also girls are just way more interesting and fun, and we bring the drama. The guys are boring, whatever. I wanted a girls' game. I thought I could trust Ty. So I went and talked to her. I was like, I'm hearing some rumors about Amsterdam, about the Netherlands. And she was like, yeah. And I was like, oh my gosh, maybe. But went with my gut at the last second. Anyway, kind of on that note, about people not liking me and me not having any idea, there were a number of alliances on the bus and like relationships and stuff that I don't feel like the extent of them were shown. So, like, at this point, episode 3, Allie and Shane, full on in a relationship. Prior to that, Biggie and Shane had formed an alliance. I had no idea about that. But they were an alliance, and then Allie got brought in because she was with Shane, and then separately, Allie and Ty had an alliance that I also didn't know about. So then the 4 of them were all working together. I had no idea about any of this. That's on me. But Ty, I thought I could trust. Rachel and I were really close this episode. We got pretty close in the second episode. I really liked Rachel. I was really upset to see her go. I really wanted to tell her Paris, but also I didn't. Rachel and I were really close. Funny thing about Rachel, and we'll talk about this on Under the Covers, so check out Under the Covers because we're filming an episode with Rachel later. Rachel and I found out that we lived in the same apartment complex in LA way back in our acting days. So that's pretty cool. So we had that like weird connection, and we were just kind of chatting in general. Like Rachel was the only one who I felt like wasn't like game playing, which was kind of me. Like I was just kind of like, I'm just trying to figure out where we are. At this point, I'm not really in the business of lying to people. I'll get in that business. But at this point, I'm just like kind of trying to chat, suss people out, make some connections, maybe figure out who the dumbest person on this bus is. I didn't figure it out. But like Rachel and I were just chatting. I really liked Rachel. The other person I was really trying to get to know was Biggie. Biggie, from the first second we were on the tarmac, I clocked that guy as being the biggest threat there. And I really wanted to get close with him. That's not shown at all this episode, but I like really start working on trying to form a friendship with Biggie this episode, and we ended up getting pretty close, and he and I were talking a lot about Paris. He's the one who told me that there were Can rumors flying around, and I was like, dude, don't even consider falling for Can. I was also talking to him about the Netherlands a little bit, and he was kind of like, yeah, I'm hearing some Netherlands things too, but we both resolved to go Paris. And so like I knew Biggie was telling the truth to me then, because we were kind of sharing information and both kind of being like, this doesn't make sense, but Paris makes sense. So I felt like I kind of made a big connection with Biggie this episode, not shown at all. But he was the number one person who I was trying to make a friendship with throughout my time on the show, just because I thought he was super smart and I wanted information from him. Another person I really loved on the bus was Kim. Kim is the funniest person I have ever met in my entire life. I want an uncut version of the show. Actually, I want it to be cut, but I want it to just be Kim. The funniest person. Nobody speaks their mind like Kim. I in general on this bus have never laughed harder in my life. I had such an amazing time on the bus. And all of those really hard laughs were either with Kim or Biggie. Like both of them, like I felt super close to both of them. I loved them both. I thought they were the funniest people ever. And like my best memories of that bus are with them. And the funniest moments of my life have been with them as well. So really, really loved Kim. She wasn't in the map room, so I wasn't really talking much clues with her, mini clues with her. And then yeah, Biggie and I were sharing a little bit. Shane and Allie, it is not shown the extent to which they were all over each other, and it was like, oh my gosh, like I am not a touchy feely person. I don't like dating or anything like that. At that point in my life, I thought I was asexual, like didn't like I thought everybody was lying about being in love. I thought anytime any person was in love, it was for show. And so to see them being all over each other, I was like, oh my God, reel it in. Like, you guys are both gonna like screw each other's game up. I also didn't want to trust either one of them because, like, if you tell one of them, you knew the other one would be told. Come to find out, there was also two other people in that alliance so that information would spread quickly. But like both of them, it was like, oh my gosh, like why are you guys always making out? Come to find out, after the show was done, that was all intentional. Allie and Shane had a plan to like be all over each other or whatever, to the extent that it like grossed people out. So like, so like that people would like kind of leave them alone. And then Ty and Biggie were supposed to be like, yeah, isn't that super gross? And so then everybody would think Ty and Biggie were against Shane and Allie. And so we would share information with them, and then they would share it back with Allie and Shane. Anyway, it was this big conspiracy that was all done for a reason. I didn't know any of that, so I'm like genuinely thinking like, oh my goodness, get off of each other. But whatever, all good fun. Yeah, I think. Oh, and Rick, I did not trust at all. Rick, I did not trust starting episode 2. The whole Snake Milan situation from episode 1. I knew our team genuinely thought it was Milan, so him telling Josh Milan, I didn't at that point think like he was trying to be devious or anything like that. Like I wasn't 100% sure on Milan. I don't know if Rick was 100% sure on Milan, but like our team was talking about that. So like I do believe he was being genuine in telling Josh Milan at that point in time. Or at least telling Josh what our team thought, regardless of whether he thought that or not. Anyway, episode 2 is when I really started to not trust Rick, because he got the clue on the helicopter and I was bouncing off clues from him, and he was just straight lying to me. Like, I remember talking to him on the bus being like, on purpose, asking him things that I knew weren't true because I wanted to see what he would say back to me. It was like kind of a test. None of this is shown. Because I knew he got the clue, and I was like, I wonder if he's going to share it with me or if he's going to lie to me. So it was a test, and I was like, oh man, like, we're up in the mountains. Like, is there a chance we're in the Pyrenees? Remember, this guy got the clue. This guy saw the Swiss flag. I didn't know what he'd seen at that point, but I knew he got the clue. And he was like, yeah, I mean, there's a chance we're in the Pyrenees. There was no chance we were in the Pyrenees. He knew we were not in the Pyrenees. It would have been unbelievable for us to have been in the Pyrenees. We were told the elevation at which we were, which was higher than the Pyrenees, and I know he knows that. Also, we were all like having altitude sickness. The Pyrenees don't go that high. He's from Canada. I don't think where he is there's a lot of mountains, but he's gonna know some mountains. Like, there was no chance in the world that we were even close to the Pyrenees, and I knew he knew that, and he went along with it. And so I was like, this man cannot be trusted. He's going to lie to my face, and he's not going to have any problem with it. And that's fine. That's how you play the game. Like, no hate on lying about clues, absolutely. But I knew I couldn't trust him from that point on. So Rick, this episode, didn't trust him at all. But he was on my team, which made it especially tricky because when we were talking about our red herrings, it was like every time he said something, I was like, I don't know if you're telling me the truth or not. So I kind of, anything he told me, I immediately threw it away. Also, never forgave him on the show because I clocked him as a liar, couldn't trust him from that point on. I haven't talked much about the croquet challenge, but that one was kind of crazy. So, as it's explained, like, we didn't know what the challenge was when we were picking our teammates. And I loved Kim. I genuinely just, like, wanted to go up against her. I know I said that, like, well, I think I can beat her. Clearly I was wrong. That was not the main, like, whatever, I don't think I can talk about that. But, like, I just loved Kim, and I just, like, wanted to play a game with her. And I just knew it would be so silly, whatever the outcome was. I felt at that point decently okay about going into the map room. Like I was, you know, 70% sure we were in France, most likely Paris. At that point, there was some Amsterdam things floating around, but nevertheless, I was kind of like, whatever. And I just wanted to have a good time with her. And a good time I did have. What was cool about that challenge is they let us practice. They let us practice playing croquet for a little bit beforehand, kind of off in a field. And that did not help at all. That did not help at all. I was still very bad at croquet. Kim's first shot was like almost in the hole. What I wanted to do and what I asked if I could do was if I could just whack her ball as far as possible, take a 2-stroke penalty like I believe you can do in real croquet, and then just kind of give myself a better shot from there. And I was not allowed to do that. But it was a really fun game. Allie and Biggie's round was crazy. Another crazy thing that wasn't shown is Ty and Rachel had this whole conversation about Ty throwing the game and giving Rachel the clue, which she did end up doing, but didn't help. What's silly about this is, like, I think Ty really, really believed it was Can. It was actually Allie who came to the conclusion of Can based on all of the clues. And then it feels like they set Rachel up, which was a bummer because I know they wanted to keep Rachel in because they wanted me out. Or Biggie or Rick, but probably not Biggie because he was in the alliance. So it was me or Rick because we were the strongest ones there in their opinion. Whatever, doesn't matter. But that majorly backfired. Anyway, yeah, the croquet challenge was really cool. It was really fun. I want to play croquet with Kim. I'm going to Hawaii in a few weeks at some point. So I'm hoping I get to play a little round of croquet with Kim just because I think that would be so fun and silly. The last thing I want to talk about is Ty's lie. Why did she do that? It didn't make any sense to us at the time. Like, it's not like weird things were edited out. Like, she was just sticking to that lie, and everybody, the second Peter was like, oh yeah, I met Shane, and Shane was like, yeah, I met Peter. All of us were like, so you met Janae? And she was like, no. And we were like, okay, clearly you're lying. But then she stuck to it. It was the weirdest thing, and it all came out. We all figured it out, and we'll see if it blows up or not. We'll see what happens with that. But it was crazy. It was such a dumb lie. Whatever. The last thing, actually, right before Ty's lie, it was them two getting on the bus. It's funny because Biggie and I had the same experience here. The window goes clear, and we see the Eiffel Tower, and we're like, sick, we were in Paris, confirmation. This is the only time that it was confirmed to us on the bus where we actually were, assuming you knew where the Eiffel Tower was. Like, there's not really a bigger clue than that you're in Paris. So this was like the first time where we like know our starting point, so now when we track directions, we know for sure where we're starting from. We see two people dancing. Biggie and I are both memorizing the steps of the dance. We're like, okay, this dance is relevant. What dance is this? Looking at their clothing, looking for clues. We're looking for clues. Had no idea that these people were like reality stars and were coming on our bus. Absolutely shocking when they walked on our bus. We just thought they were additional clues for our next location. Like trying to figure out the dance, trying to memorize the dance move. Like maybe that's going to come up. Maybe that's going to be relevant. Not relevant at all. They were just told to do a little dance. Then they got on the bus. Everybody's pissed. Nothing about the two of them personally, but just like at this point we'd been filming for I think 2 weeks. And it took so long to get just 3 people off of the bus. And now it was like, okay, now we're starting back from 0. Major bummer. Part of me was like kind of okay with it because it was like, okay, now there's going to be more people in the map room. So if I go in the map room, I do have a better shot, statistically, which means I can last longer, which that's good. But also it's like, but now I'm further away from being the last one standing. And so it was like kind of a mixed bag of emotions. They were both super cool. I talked to Janae a lot more than I did Peter. She was great. She was super sweet. Cool girl. Peter did some magic tricks for us, and he juggled. I didn't even put my juggling balls out here as a reference to Peter, but he did juggle for us, and I thought that was really cool. I actually put the juggling balls here because I've been working on learning how to juggle. Let me show you. That was bad. Let me show you again. I have a lot of juggling content on my OnlyFans, so be sure to check that out. If you were listening on the podcast rather than the YouTube version, just know that I just crushed juggling for 45 minutes. But both of them were nice. We had some champagne with them, had a lot of chit-chats. I don't think anybody had any idea who either of them were, except for Allie recognized Peter. Which is funny because like you have this bus full of reality people. Nobody knew who Josh was, nobody knew who Janae was, and only one person knew who Peter was. So I think they probably thought that we were all going to be able to put all of that together and like see them in different lines. Oh, turns out Rick knew who Peter was. He talked about that in a confessional. He didn't tell us that. But Rick lied about a lot of things. So like you never know. We never knew when Rick was telling the truth or not. We still don't, to be fair. Um, Rick, I think you're probably a great guy off the show. On the show, couldn't trust you. Couldn't trust you one bit. Anyway, that's probably a wrap for this. That was a really fun episode. I think the clues are getting better. This next episode, I think, is going to be so juicy. So be sure to check in. Also, go check out Under the Covers. I'm Mac. Allie and I are filming an episode with Rachel to talk all about Rachel and her elimination and everything all about that. And yeah, thank you for listening. If you've listened this far, please, please, please like and subscribe. And also comment. Comment, especially if were there any Paris clues that I missed when I was explaining all the clues earlier? I feel like there's gotta be, but I'm just curious. But yeah, thank you so much for listening. That's super nice. Love ya.